Have you ever wondered how self-pleasure evolves as we age? The truth is, masturbation can take on entirely new meanings in our golden years, offering comfort, connection, and healing. But what happens when it goes from a healthy habit to something more complicated? As the candles of youth slowly dim, we enter a new chapter, one where silence becomes deeper, where touch is more deliberate, and where the body, though slower, still longs to be known. In these later years, self-pleasure often becomes more than just a momentary act. It becomes a form of self-respect, a quiet affirmation that says, "I still matter, I still feel, I still deserve joy." In this video, we'll uncover the raw reality of masturbation in old age, from its empowering benefits to the emotional challenges that many face. Stay with us until the end as we reveal how finding balance can profoundly shape your well-being, both physically and emotionally. Because what you're about to hear may challenge what you've believed, or maybe it'll give you permission to feel seen, accepted, and understood in ways no one's ever spoken aloud. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, I encourage you to click the subscribe button and ring the notification bell to stay updated on all our latest content. Let's be honest, few people talk about this, and fewer talk about it without judgment. That's why it's so important that we create a space where real conversations about aging, sexuality, and emotional truth can happen. I'm eager to hear your thoughts on today's topic. If you enjoy the content, please comment 1 below. If it doesn't resonate with you, leave a 0. Your feedback is crucial, as it helps me create better videos that align with your interests. Let's make this more than a video. Let's make it a dialogue. Let's listen without shame and speak with compassion. Now, let's get started. Let's dive deep into unraveling the often misunderstood and highly sensitive topic of pleasure in old age. This is not just a physical journey, it's emotional, psychological, even spiritual. When we talk about pleasure at an older age, we're not just talking about touch. We're talking about memory, meaning, and the body's final conversation with the soul. As we break down the myths and confront the raw reality of how this intimate practice can shape the lives of those who engage in it, both through its liberating joys and its more complicated emotional undertones. This discussion is crafted with the intent to touch the hearts of adults, especially those navigating the profound journey of their later years. Because no matter your age, your story, or your scars, your need to feel alive, connected, and whole has not disappeared. It has simply matured. Masturbation is far more than a mere physical act. It is an exploration of one's innermost desires, a sanctuary of self-connection that can soothe the mind, body, and soul. Regardless of age, the ability to generate physical pleasure while releasing pent-up emotional tension is an undeniable part of the human experience. But in the later seasons of life, this practice becomes something different, something deeper. It transforms from a burst of youthful energy into a more conscious act of remembrance and self-respect. It's a way of saying, though the world moves faster now, I still have time for myself. Though others may forget my needs, I will not forget them. As we age, however, this practice takes on new layers of complexity. The body, once driven by youthful intensity, begins to transition through a host of natural changes, hormonal shifts, altered physical sensitivity, and the evolving rhythms of desire. Testosterone and estrogen levels drop. Skin becomes more sensitive. The spark may not ignite as quickly, but something else rises in its place, something softer, quieter, but just as powerful: intimacy with the self. It is no longer about the rush. It is about the moment, the breath, the presence. Yet despite the inevitable physical transformations, pleasure does not fade. It simply becomes more nuanced, more personal, and more profound. And that nuance is the beauty. For those in their golden years, masturbation can become an intimate way to reclaim a deeply personal connection with their aging body. With declining testosterone and estrogen levels, Sexual desire might not burn as fiercely as it once did, but it lingers, waiting to be explored in quieter, more meaningful ways. There is no expiration date on the need for closeness. The act of self-stimulation becomes an empowering act of rediscovery, free from the often overwhelming expectations or pressures that intimacy and youth can bring. It is a space where one can reconnect with the body's needs and desires, acknowledging that pleasure is still a valid, life-affirming experience, no matter the age. And sometimes it's more than valid. Sometimes it's sacred. The benefits, both physical and emotional, are profound. Medical research consistently highlights that regular self-pleasure offers a host of positive effects, especially for older adults. Physically, it helps to maintain blood flow to the genital area, ensuring that vital tissues stay healthy and resistant to atrophy, a common issue due to disuse. Think of it as a gentle form of self-care, not indulgence, not taboo, but care. But perhaps more significantly, the emotional and psychological rewards are immeasurable. Masturbation releases endorphins, those powerful happiness hormones that sweep away feelings of stress, anxiety, and even depression, lifting the spirit in ways that few other activities can. It's like opening a window on a foggy day. Suddenly, you remember what warmth feels like. In old age, this practice serves as a reminder that we are still vibrant, still capable of joy, still deserving of deep personal satisfaction. It is a way to honor the body's needs without shame, guilt, or societal judgment, embracing the idea that the journey of pleasure continues in different but equally beautiful ways until the very end of life. When an older person engages in masturbation, they experience not just a fleeting moment of physical relief, but a deeper, lasting impact on their overall well-being, particularly when it comes to improving sleep quality. And let's be honest, how many of us, as we get older, find a good night's rest harder to come by? In the later stages of life, restful sleep becomes essential for maintaining physical and mental health, and the relaxation that follows self-pleasure can help to ease tension, enabling a more peaceful night's rest. This isn't just about sex, it's about healing, about rest, about reminding your nervous system that it is safe, loved, and whole. Psychologically, masturbation plays a much larger role than one might initially imagine. It becomes a powerful tool for self-awareness and self-compassion, allowing older adults to reclaim a sense of agency over their bodies, which may have felt lost to the effects of aging. It whispers, "This is still mine. I still know how to care for myself. I still feel." In a world where getting older often brings with it feelings of vulnerability, loss of control, and sometimes even a disconnection from one's own body, masturbation offers a pathway to regain some of that control. It's not just about pleasure anymore, it's about power. Not the kind that dominates, but the kind that whispers, "You still belong here." In a society that too often overlooks or dismisses the elderly, this act becomes a private revolution, a quiet reclaiming. It's an opportunity to feel in tune with oneself, to experience one's physical form as a source of comfort rather than disappointment. And that shift, from frustration to acceptance, is transformative. This renewed connection reinforces self-esteem, helping individuals develop a more positive and accepting view of their aging bodies, which can be incredibly empowering. But just as fire warms the home, it can also burn. However, as with all pleasurable activities, there is a line that, if crossed, can turn this intimate practice from beneficial to potentially harmful. This line is not always visible. Sometimes it's crossed gradually, quietly, without realization, until one day, what was once a soothing ritual starts to feel like a compulsion. When masturbation becomes excessive or compulsive, especially in older age, it can bring about certain physical and emotional consequences that should not be overlooked. Physically, overstimulation of the genital nerves can lead to heightened sensitivity, which may sound desirable at first, but can cause discomfort or a temporary reduction in sensation over time. And when pleasure fades into numbness, frustration often follows. This hypersensitivity can create a frustrating cycle where individuals find themselves needing increasingly intense stimulation to reach the same level of pleasure. The result? A growing sense of dissatisfaction and even anxiety, as the one simple act of self-pleasure no longer provides the same level of fulfillment. It's like chasing a high that used to come easily, but now remains just out of reach. A soft addiction that no one sees, because it happens in silence. Yet the most significant impact of excessive masturbation in old age is not physical. It's emotional. In my experience, many older adults turn to masturbation as a way to escape from more painful feelings, loneliness, anxiety, or depression. The body becomes a refuge, a distraction, a place where emotion can be paused, if only for a moment. As we grow older, social connections may weaken, family dynamics may shift, and many are left facing the isolating silence of life without the constant companionship of loved ones. Children grow up and move away, spouses pass on, friends fade from memory, and the rooms get quieter. In these moments, masturbation can offer a brief refuge, a way to temporarily push aside the ache of loneliness. But when it becomes the primary or sole source of comfort, it can deepen the emotional void, creating a vicious cycle of dependency that further isolates the individual. This emotional isolation can be especially dangerous for older adults, as it often goes unnoticed. Because no one talks about it, no one asks. The more someone retreats into the solitary world of self-stimulation, the less likely they are to seek out meaningful, fulfilling connections with others. They may smile in public, but suffer in private. While masturbation in moderation can be a healthy part of one's sexual expression, when it becomes a substitute for human interaction and emotional fulfillment, it can leave a person feeling more alone than ever, wrapped in a bubble of self-imposed isolation. And in that bubble, joy becomes a memory. Touch becomes a ghost. In the end, like all things, balance is key. Masturbation can be a deeply rewarding and healing practice in old age, offering physical relief, emotional connection, and a sense of empowerment. But when it crosses the line into excess, it can become a shadow of itself, leading to feelings of frustration, isolation, and emotional dependency. This is where self-awareness becomes your greatest ally, because the body may age, but wisdom deepens. And knowing when you've drifted from healing into hiding is part of that wisdom. The journey to finding that balance is personal, one that requires honesty, self-awareness, and most importantly, self-compassion. We live in a world that doesn't often teach older adults how to love themselves, emotionally or sexually. But love doesn't have a deadline, and balance is not a finish line, it's a practice. Instead of seeking companionship, affection, or emotional support, some individuals may turn to self-stimulation as a substitute, slowly distancing themselves from the world around them. It doesn't happen overnight. One missed phone call, one canceled visit, one more night alone, and suddenly, the act that once empowered now isolates. This reliance on masturbation can contribute to further emotional disconnection, leading to a profound sense of isolation. What do medical studies say about masturbation in old age? From a clinical perspective, masturbation itself is not inherently harmful. In fact, it can provide numerous health benefits when practiced in moderation. Doctors, therapists, and geriatric specialists increasingly recognize the importance of sexual expression, even in later life, as a component of overall wellness. It's not taboo, it's science. However, like any behavior, when taken to excess, it can have unintended side effects that may impact both the body and mind. Numerous studies have highlighted the potential consequences of compulsive masturbation in older adults, particularly when it becomes a primary form of emotional or sexual release. It becomes not just an outlet, but a dependency. a habit of avoidance dressed as a ritual of self-love. Physically, the overuse of self-stimulation can result in fatigue, not just on a sexual level, but also in overall energy levels, contributing to mental and physical exhaustion. And exhaustion at this stage in life is no small matter. It doesn't just sap your strength. It can dull your will to connect, to move, to live vibrantly. This fatigue can make it more difficult to maintain the energy and motivation required to engage in essential daily activities. As we know, maintaining an active lifestyle through physical exercise is crucial for older individuals. It promotes mobility, strengthens muscles, and supports cardiovascular health. But here's the danger. Excessive masturbation can sap the enthusiasm or drive needed for physical exercise, leading to a more sedentary lifestyle, which poses its own health risks in older age, such as increased chances of heart disease, loss of muscle tone, and decreased flexibility. It's a quiet exchange that no one notices. Movement for momentary relief, vitality for escape. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment number 1 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Let me tell you something. If you're still here, I see you. I see your courage to explore this part of your journey. This is not easy, but it's real. And that's what matters most. Beyond the physical ramifications, another important aspect to consider is how excessive self-stimulation can impact interpersonal relationships during this later stage of life. This is especially true for those who are not alone, those who still share their lives with a partner. While many older adults live alone and may turn to masturbation as a means of fulfilling their sexual needs, those who are in relationships face additional complications. There's an unspoken distance that can begin to grow when intimacy shifts from shared to solitary. In cases where a person is in a long-term partnership, frequent or compulsive masturbation can gradually take the place of shared intimacy. It's subtle at first. Maybe it's just easier to be alone, less pressure, more control. But over time, the space between two people can grow so large, neither one knows how to cross it anymore. This shift can create a growing emotional and physical distance between partners, replacing the deep connection and affection that once bonded them with an individual act that leaves little room for mutual pleasure. And when touch becomes optional, love often becomes silent. The result can be a relationship that feels disconnected, where one or both partners feel neglected or unsatisfied emotionally and physically. For those in this situation, finding a balance is essential. It is important to ensure that masturbation does not become a replacement for intimacy with a partner, but rather a complement to the shared connection. It's not about choosing one over the other. It's about learning to blend self-love with shared love, honoring both. This can prevent it from becoming a barrier to the loving and intimate contact that keeps relationships strong and healthy. On an emotional and psychological level, excessive masturbation can also bring about a host of negative feelings, particularly for those who have been raised in environments where sexuality was considered taboo, shameful, or something to be hidden. And let's be real, many older adults were raised in exactly those kinds of environments. Decades ago, sex wasn't talked about. It was buried under layers of silence and religious fear. Nice people didn't talk about such things. Respectable adults didn't do that. And so, guilt began growing roots early, roots that never quite disappeared. Many older adults still carry these deep-seated beliefs, which can result in an internal struggle when they engage in self-stimulation. That struggle is real and heavy, because for these individuals, the pleasure derived from masturbation may be immediately followed by feelings of guilt, shame, or remorse. Imagine that. Your body whispers joy, but your mind screams judgment. This conflict between the desire for pleasure and the ingrained belief that such acts are morally wrong can create an emotional burden, one that weighs heavily on self-esteem and mental well-being. It's a silent war between what you feel and what you were taught to feel. between your body's needs and your culture's expectations. And this ongoing internal conflict can further exacerbate feelings of loneliness and isolation, as the individual may feel trapped in a cycle of pleasure followed by self-judgment. For some, it feels like being stuck between two worlds, one that promises healing through touch, and one that punishes you for even trying. The mental toll of this battle can erode emotional health, leading to anxiety, depression, and a diminished sense of self-worth. It's not that the act is wrong, it's that the shame surrounding it was never yours to carry in the first place. It is essential to recognize that these emotions are not uncommon, particularly for those who grew up in more conservative or repressive cultures. Whether it was due to religion, strict parenting, or a society that confused silence with morality, this conditioning runs deep. But here's the truth. Being raised with shame does not mean you have to die with it. However, addressing these feelings head-on and working towards self-acceptance can be incredibly liberating. And that's where real freedom begins, not in rebellion, but in healing. In conclusion, while masturbation in old age is not harmful when practiced in moderation and can even offer numerous physical and emotional benefits, it is important to remain mindful of the potential pitfalls of over-reliance on self-stimulation, because what begins as self-care can quietly turn into self-avoidance. Finding a healthy balance, particularly for those in relationships, is key to ensuring that masturbation serves as a positive aspect of one's sexual and emotional well-being, rather than a source of disconnection or shame. Balance does not mean denial. It means awareness. Awareness of your needs, your emotional state, and how your habits align or misalign with your long-term wellness. As we age, self-awareness and self-compassion become even more important in maintaining a fulfilling, balanced life. It's not about perfection, it's about presence. In these cases, it is vital to understand that sexuality, even in the later stages of life, remains a natural, beautiful, and deeply positive aspect of human existence. And let's say that again. Beautiful, not shameful, not embarrassing, but beautiful. It should never be weighed down by unnecessary guilt or shame. The ability to connect with one's body through sexual pleasure, even in old age, is not only normal, but also a valuable form of self-expression and emotional release, because pleasure doesn't belong to the young. It belongs to the living. And if you're alive, you're still worthy. However, when masturbation turns into an emotional escape, replacing meaningful human contact, it may signal a deeper issue that needs attention. The answer isn't to shame the behavior, it's to understand the wound beneath it. In such circumstances, it's important to seek alternative forms of emotional support, whether through therapy, counseling, or reconnecting with loved ones. You don't have to carry this alone, and you don't have to choose between touch and connection. Both are possible. These forms of connection can offer a much-needed source of emotional nourishment that goes beyond the fleeting satisfaction of self-stimulation. They remind us that even in aging, we are not islands. We are humans, wired for love, for comfort, and for closeness. One common concern many people have is whether there are any long-term physical risks associated with masturbation in old age. And that concern is valid, not because the act itself is dangerous, but because fear thrives in silence. When no one talks about something, the mind fills in the gaps with anxiety, myths, and outdated beliefs. This is where it's crucial to dispel the persistent myths that have caused undue anxiety for so many. Contrary to outdated beliefs, there is no credible medical evidence to suggest that masturbation results in permanent damage to sexual organs or accelerates the aging process. Let that sink in. No, you are not wearing yourself out. No, this isn't unnatural. These are fear-based beliefs, not facts. Furthermore, studies have consistently shown that there is no link between masturbation and serious conditions such as prostate cancer or sexual dysfunctions like erectile difficulties or impotence. These falsehoods only serve to heighten unnecessary fear, especially in older adults who may already feel vulnerable about their changing bodies. And vulnerability, when coupled with misinformation, becomes shame. And shame is the true enemy of health, not pleasure. That said, moderation remains the key to reaping the full benefits of masturbation without experiencing unwanted side effects. This isn't about suppression, it's about sustainability. Just as we balance diet, exercise, and rest, so too must we balance how we express intimacy with ourselves. While there are no permanent health risks, excessive masturbation can still lead to physical exhaustion over time. Not the kind of exhaustion that's visible to others, but the kind that creeps in quietly, through lowered energy, less enthusiasm, and slower recovery. The frequent release of energy, when not balanced with adequate rest or nourishment, can leave individuals feeling depleted, both physically and mentally. And when energy dips, so does engagement, with others, with life, with the passions that once lit us up. Another potential outcome of overindulgence is a long-term decrease in libido. And this part may seem ironic. The very act meant to fulfill sexual desire can, when done compulsively, diminish one's drive, leading to a feeling of dissatisfaction or frustration that builds over time. Like eating too much of something sweet, eventually, it dulls the appetite instead of feeding it. Masturbation in old age, when practiced with mindfulness and moderation, offers a wealth of physical and emotional benefits. Let's recap what we've explored. Truths often buried by stigma. From a physical standpoint, it promotes healthy blood circulation and preserves the elasticity of genital tissues, helping to maintain sexual function. That means more than just pleasure. It means preservation of your body's intimate health. It can also serve as a vital tool for emotional relief, particularly in moments of stress, anxiety, or loneliness. When done with awareness, it's not avoidance, it's emotional self-soothing, a reset for the nervous system. For many, it offers a space to reconnect with their own body, reaffirming their sense of self-worth and vitality. Because when you feel your own touch with care, it reminds you, I am still here, I still matter. Yet, as with all things, balance is essential. If masturbation starts to take up a disproportionate amount of one's time, or becomes a crutch that overshadows other important aspects of life, it's time to reflect on what might be driving this compulsion. Is it loneliness, anxiety, a lack of emotional connection? This reflection is not an accusation. It's an invitation to get curious, to understand yourself with kindness, not criticism. Whatever the underlying cause, it's important to address these issues head-on. Because avoiding them only deepens the void. And you deserve more than fleeting escape. You deserve lasting connection. Seeking out healthier ways to meet emotional and physical needs, whether through hobbies, social interactions, or physical activities like yoga or walking, can restore a more balanced approach to pleasure and well-being. Even a walk in the morning sun, a phone call with a grandchild, a journal, a garden, these are all forms of self-care that re-anchor you to the world. In summary, while masturbation is a normal and beneficial practice in old age, it's essential to approach it with an awareness of its limits. Practiced in moderation, it can be a source of immense physical and emotional fulfillment, promoting both mental clarity and sexual health. But balance is everything. It's not about denying yourself, it's about honoring your full self. However, it's important to recognize when it becomes a substitute for more meaningful human connections, or when it starts to negatively impact other areas of life. That's when self-love becomes self-limitation, and that's not what you deserve. By maintaining a mindful balance, older adults can enjoy the benefits of self-pleasure without losing sight of the broader emotional and social connections that also enrich life. Because pleasure is just one part of the human mosaic. Connection, laughter, presence, purpose, these are just as essential. Thank you for joining us in this deep and meaningful discussion about self-pleasure in old age. If you've made it this far, know that your willingness to confront this topic is a gift, not just to yourself, but to others who are afraid to speak. What have you learned so far? We'd love to hear from you. What's one thing you've learned today that you plan to put into practice? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave your comment, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more insightful content like this. Your support helps us continue bringing these important conversations to light. Because the body may grow older, but the heart, the mind, and the soul, they never stop longing to be touched,